Hi, everyone. Welcome on in. Welcome to the Cluster Puck Podcast, part of the MHRT Network here at Center Ice. I am Nick. Beside me here, she can't tackle everyone, but she sure can level you. It's Brit. How are you, Brit?
Good. I am tired, a little bit sore, but after my getting tackled at the Muskies game, I would have thought I would come out of it a little more injured. But fortunately, I think he took the brunt of it. So
There you go. There you go. Well, just by looking at that video, and for those of you who aren't aware, Britt sent this video about what happened with one of her MCs at the Muskies game, where was it a fan that had to do like the tire challenge and
this tire dash? You have to spin 5 times and then run through these tires and then come back, and you have to spin 5 more times. And
oh geez.
The guy missed the end of it apparently and ran into me and turned it into like a straight up. The thing is, we almost went down gracefully at the beginning. And then I don't know if you can see where he pulls my jersey. It turns into like a full blown like WWE move. He like wails me by the bottom of my jersey, like flips me across, and we're on a cement floor, and just like yanks my whole body weight, and I landed totally on top of him. So I think he was hurting a lot more, but fortunately he was wearing a helmet. So
yeah, it looked like at first he was going to tackle like just kind of like a oops, we stumble into each other type thing.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden in the video he just heads back the other direction, falls backward.
He was trying to like I'm like,
and there we see Britt just gracefully, like almost like slow motion, just flying backward in the air after getting just yanked back.
Yeah, I stood up. I'm like,
pretty impressive.
Security over here.
It was funny. It was a good video. And then, as I understand it, somebody won their beer league championship. Is that
yes,
understanding that correctly?
Yeah, as you saw by our neat tiny little Stanley Cup mini. We could take like
the tiny little trophy that means more to a lot of people than the actual things.
Yes, and it's funny too because like they just let you take pictures of it, and they're like, "Can we have that back now?" And we're like, "Yeah."
Are you serious? They take it back.
Okay. When do we get our day with it?
Yeah, so no kidding.
Because we lost in the championship last season, I think to the same team. So we've like lost in the championship like three seasons now. So it was nice to finally win.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, don't forget that deserves extra praise in the comments, people. So let's get that going for us. And a big congratulations. So you're looking at like a celebrity right now, people. I just want to let you guys know. That's exactly right. I could only ever dream. So, alrighty. Well, we got quite a bit of stuff to get into. This episode is going to be a little bit different as far as its structure and whatnot. So let's go ahead and just kind of do a recap of the week that happened. So we go 2-1 on the week.
Just the usual absolute roller coaster. This team sucks.
Exactly.
He's going to win the Stanley Cup championship. Oh, they're all right. It's like there's never any stability
there's no solid. This is where we're at. It's always worrisome, confidence, and then confusion.
Yep.
Which is par for the course. So
the most fortunate thing is the loss that we did have, that hard loss to the Wild. It certainly wasn't on the account of the Wild playing so well. We lose these games because of ourselves. Yeah. And I don't know if that's more reassuring or less reassuring. I'm going to say it's more because at least we know that we can do it. But it hurts, man. It really hurts. The Wild game, we just stumbled through the whole entire thing until the third period when we realized we wanted to win, and it was too little too late.
Exactly. Yep. And the big part about that was you had Anaheim the game before, and you blow them out of the water 5-1. Like it was you were supposed to win and you did win type game. So I really don't think he even gave 100% in that game, if I want to be completely honest with you.
We didn't play phenomenal by any stretch of the imagination. And it's just hard to get too up about that game because, like, they won, but it's like also you shoulda. You know, if we wouldn't have
it. Yeah, duh.
Yeah.
So and even with Jonas Johansson.
Right, doing work, but whatever.
So a lot of confidence was, you had the day's rest and whatnot, even though you were flying back and, back eastward for time zone changes and whatnot. It shouldn't have affected you because you had the day off and it was a later game. But 4-2, I mean, on the scoreboard, it looks not as bad. You only lost by a couple goals and whatnot, but the whole feel of the game it was just
for the Wild
sulky,
game.
Yeah, for the Wild game, apologize. But it just
We
seemed
came
like
out
you had no traction at all.
Until the third period. And it's like, we've got to stop coming to games late. We need to come when the game starts. And that's what you can see if you look at the shot count. The first period, both teams had 11 shots. Second period, both teams had 14 shots. And then we went, holy shit, we're fighting for first in the division. And then we had 19 shots third and they had 4. And it's like, and also it's the usual. We got goalie. Gustav's, he played phenomenal. And that's not sustainable. It's not something you would anticipate continuing, but there is something about the Avs that gets the goalies from other teams just hard and ready to go because there's something about the way we shoot. I don't know, but it never fails.
Yeah. And the whole game, kind of like what you were just saying, it's like you didn't wake up until the third period. And for that time, there was a couple of minutes, about 6 of them or so, where you were down 3-2. It's like you could have tied this game had it not been for the fact that we pulled our goalie and they scored an empty netter. So yeah, it was closer toward the end. But it's those types of things where you shouldn't have to start that type of the sense of urgency with 6 minutes left in the game.
Right. And we just the goals that were scored, I mean, I've never seen, Makar is one of the best defensemen in the entire world, obviously. Like we've established that. And I do notice, and I meant to look prior to the pod to look that Makar and Taves are on the ice for a lot of goals. And I don't know if that's because they take liberties and get burnt a little bit more, but Makar got absolutely burned on that goal by Gaudreau where he had
the short-handed one.
Yeah, and you don't see him getting dangled and just undressed very often. But man, that was
yeah.
And the thing is like, it was depressing too because Makar wasn't like it's not like he was up being aggressive, trying to create some fancy like offensive play. It was a weird thing. It was a very weird play, but it's not feel good when you see him get owned by Gaudreau, the not good.
Yeah. So to answer your question, he was a -3 that night.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Honestly, Makar and Taves are responsible for some of the most gnarly turnovers, especially like Taves he's had 5 or 6 this year that you're like, holy crap. Yeah. But that's going to happen when you are an aggressive defense. When you do get burned, you're going to get burned harder because it's going to be more dramatic. But it wasn't just that, because then you had Georgie with his turnover. He just totally played the puck wrong, made a big turnover and burned himself. Yep. And then to add on top of all of it, and this certainly, I can't say with certainty that it affected us the most, but bad reffing all around for both teams. And you can't say that it swayed the game for one team or another, but it certainly just swayed the game in just a weird, uncomfortable, like it was bad for everyone. So I don't know if there's like an attention problem going on with the refs this year, but it just feels like the refs are making themselves the center of every game. Especially like, and maybe I'm getting like confirmation bias at this point, but it feels like the refs are kicking more people out of the faceoff than ever. And I just don't give a shit if this isn't like an NFL, like they're starting their lineup where you can't split before the ball. It's just like, I just feel like they're getting really too excited about that. And they're so worried about reviews. And it's like, well, maybe if the refs didn't kick every single it feels like every other faceoff. Yeah. I don't know. But
and that's the thing is with refereeing, though, especially in the face-off circle, it's the ref's choice what he likes to see in the face-off as far as stick down, movement, whatever whatever it is. It's to the ref's liking, essentially. Yeah. And a lot of them have kind of taken that a little too, in my opinion, a little too close to heart, because it's like, there should be some kind of standard where it says you need to kind of let this go. Or if you don't see an advantage here, it's fine, whatever it is. But I agree with you. It seems like the refs are having, well, and another thing, like just kind of looking back through the season, and not just the Avs specifically, but it does seem to happen to the Avs more than everyone else. Yeah. But league-wide anyways, is that the refs tend to be in the way when big plays are about to unfold.
Like when Mikko is trying to put away his 48th goal of the season, and what the heck, dude? Like, if there's one place, if you're between the puck and the net, don't be there.
You need to not.
I've done, like, I refuse to ref. I think that people who do ref are either psychotic or incredibly emotionally strong people, because it's not.
It is a thankless job. It is a very thankless job.
If I've learned anything, it's that you do not need to be between the puck and the net at any time. And if you are, you better learn how to jump like Michael Jordan, especially when homeboys come at some major personal records. Like, come on now.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't know. It's just and we killed our power play goal streak this one. What did we end at? 11?
Oh, I think we were.
And
I thought we were upwards like 14 or something like that.
Oh, was it? Yeah, and that's what neither team.
It was a long though.
I think it was, we were like 0-4 and Wild was 0-3 or vice versa, but it was just not like a really fun game. It's just there's really no flow, and I don't know. I didn't like the game at all. I don't like the Wild. I don't feel like the rivalry is the same, but
you got to be careful where you're walking in your neck of the woods. There's a lot of them out there.
Yep.
But yeah, so
if there's anything that we do, it's generally we don't play 2 bad games in a row. We don't drop 2 deuces in a row. So then what did we do? We came out in Dallas and we came
back and played fantastic hockey.
Yeah, a game that we needed to see. We desperately needed to see.
Exactly. So like in that game, you win that one 5-2, even though 2 of ours were empty netters, but 5-2 regardless.
Yeah.
That one was a definite feel-good win, especially considering what you did just the game prior. That one was up for grabs for first place. This one was up for grabs for maintaining second, essentially.
Right.
And you come out there and you do what you have to do. So my only concern out of that is, what is the mentality change between Dallas and Minnesota? Because it's almost like a copy paste type of team. They both play physical. They both have
go out and kick some ass. Like, is that? I don't know.
I don't know, but in either sense, how they followed up the Minnesota game with a big win over Dallas is definitely very, very telling. Georgiev had a really great game. I mean, everyone had a really solid game. I can't think of any other than maybe Mikko and his couple fits that he had.
I can't really think of talking crap to refs. It blows my mind.
I know. It's like he said he was going to do better. I get there's a couple things, and we kind of just alluded to that the refs themselves really should hold themselves accountable.
Yeah.
But really at the same time, it's like, as far as penalties go, there wasn't like, I mean, a couple of them were, it's like, playing with illegal equipment with for stick breaking, and it's really like he didn't know.
It's out of play, like delay game. It's just one of those ones that, like, sometimes it's just an accident, but you have to pick all or nothing on it. If you make it objective, then it's just going to be even more of a mess, because we can tell that refs are not very good at handling objective calls. So, it's that sucks. Because he definitely didn't know that it was broken, and it's not like he went slap shot, and it was just so weird.
But and the whole, I think the biggest one that we constantly get just ripped for is tripping. And the thing is, I know accidental or not, that's the rule. Tripping is tripping, and I understand that and respect that. But our biggest problem is we should never have those sticks in the wrong place to begin with.
Well, and tripping and hooking a lot of the times are very lazy penalties, because they mean you don't want to skate fast enough a lot of the time. If you're not moving your feet, then you reach your stick, and that's where you put it in the bad places. So, which is dumb, because we are one of the faster teams in the league.
Exactly. And it brings to mind my the one, it was like with 2 minutes-ish thereabouts left in the third period, and Bowen Byram is trying to stop more or less a breakaway / odd man rush, kind of, and he tries to, he gets low and tries to hit it away from Max Domi and misses completely and hits him right in the skates. Could Domi have withstood that? I personally think so, but at the same time, it ends up getting him. He goes down. They call Byram for a tripping call, and that's where they end up, I think, getting their second goal.
Yeah.
And the whole time I'm just thinking, why did he even feel the need to do that when he could have just tried to outmuscle him off of the puck? Because that's totally fine.
He's not a big guy either, is he? He looks tiny.
He's Jack Johnson. They're roughly the same size, I'd say. Maybe Domi's a little bit, thicker, but I was just looking, I was like, that was when we really didn't need to take, especially I understand what Byram was doing. And I give him credit for that, but I feel like the effort, instead of trying to go low and swipe for the puck, he could have just stayed high and got him off the puck by just shouldering him or elbowing him off the way. But that's about it in this game. It's just there's those moments. The whole game we gave 100%. It was awesome.
So
but
nice
you had
to see Logan O'Connor get that beauty of a goal.
Oh, wasn't it so amazing?
He's one of those guys that's like you just love to see him do good. Like you just want good things.
You do.
So.
And I didn't know that was goal number 9, but he surpassed himself as far as points in the season goes. So it's like, no, we're but up with him.
And the last game against the Wild, that Gerard, did he have the goal or the assist? But Gerard also passed his career high.
Something like that. I bet you I can get you.
But yeah, I mean, as much as
points for sure.
Yeah. Rag on the defense. You've got Comfer, Mikko, O'Connor. I mean, these guys are having career years, especially Comfer. Like, who dat? Like, this is not the Comfer we've ever known. So we are getting a lot out of guys that we complain about a lot too. Which I will never complain about O'Connor. I simply just never will, even when he has bad games. I just feel like he works way too hard.
Blame everyone else, not my child. My child would never.
Yeah, exactly. Logan O'Connor would never. Yeah, it's which is interesting because we were just talking about how he was undrafted free agent, college free agent, and I mean he's become an integral part of our core. Granted, he's in the bottom 6, but I mean that's literally
he kind of keeps it together.
Yeah, I mean, he's a glue, and we just essentially replenished our entire pipeline in the last 5 days with college free agents.
Just signing all these guys.
Yes. So did we end up with 3? So we got the Michigan State captain. I should have written them down. I can't remember. The Michigan State captain, and then the other one was from.
So we got Pavel. We got, it's not Potvin. What's his name? Poland?
Is it Pavel? Poland. Poland sounds right.
I haven't done and another one named Pavel, and then.
So is that the Cornell guy? So we have the Cornell.
I don't remember who's the Cornell.
And I can't remember what the last one was, but I was going to do like a deep dive into him at some point this week. But I mean, it's hit or miss. And it's weird because there's something that these dudes like about the Avs or Sakic or Colorado. Because I mean, getting Ben Myers last year, as eventful as he's been, that was like a lottery type thing because a lot of people wanted him, especially the Wild wanted him. Like he's Minnesota dude, like, and getting him was awesome. So it's nice to see. I'm sure the Eagles are like, thank God, because they need bodies. Hopefully these guys can go
in the worst way.
Yeah, be effective immediately. So if anything, it's good for them. But yeah, it's nice to see people wanting to be here. And I don't know if that's more a thing with us being the Stanley Cup, defending champions, or just because Sakic is so lovely that he just can get anyone he wants. I don't know, but it's nice. I'll be curious to see these guys. It's a very curious thing. Ben Myers, this is just another random thing with our college guys. Ben Myers has been recalled today, which I don't know why. Manson is on the trip with the guys. Manson, Francouz, and who's our other injury? Manson, Francouz, and Lehkonen are all on the trip right now with us. So I'm very curious to see. I thought maybe Cogs was hurt. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Cogs. That guy takes something brutal every single game, but
he always comes back on the ice after about 2 minutes off the bench, and then
he's on the hallway 2 times a game. He has to go down and get stitches, or have his elbow pop back.
He gets like checked in the nose, or a puck to the face, or boarded.
Yeah. Oh, that guy is
just like, hey, he's officially dead, and then he hobbles his way to the bench. They open the gate. He goes down the tunnel. And you're like, this. You're thinking this is the one. He's for sure dead.
But nope, they're back there.
About 4 minutes later, you just see him with the puck. You're like, what the crap? I thought he
Yeah,
was
he
dead.
is such a trooper, and it's not like it's ever justified. He's not soft. The guy plays his butt off every single game. So, yeah, I'm curious with Ben Myers what's going on there. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of those players where like I didn't think at the beginning of this season our, if you want to call them call up players or just roster filler players, whatever you want to call them, I never thought that I would have the most confidence in Dennis Mulligan and Brad Hunt.
Right.
Like those are the two that I am just like, if they're on there, I'm great. You know, like they give a lot of their effort, a lot of the time, and you know, with Ben Myers, he's not like bad or anything, but just it seems like this go around, it just hasn't been his cup of tea. So,
No.
you know, and that's just, it's sad to say, but at the same time, it's like he wouldn't have been on the team regardless if everybody was healthy. You know, Landeskog was back, but yada yada yada. But you know, with the times he's been allowed to be with the team, he hasn't necessarily made massive mistakes where it's like, hey, cut it. But he just hasn't done enough to actually put himself above and beyond those who's playing with.
And at this point in the season, we need to see stability, and we need to see, can't think of the word that I'm looking for, but they need to be playing well every game. We need to know what we're going to get out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of my main concerns out of Malgin is I think that he's got the propensity to disappear pretty quick. So I wouldn't be surprised when Lehkonen, Landy, once we have everyone healthy, I mean, you know, I don't know if that's even a thing with Landy.
So next season.
Right. Exactly. I could see him being one that's pushed out. As many glimpses of like awesomenesses that he's had, he also has, you know, he tends to disappear a little bit. And for sure, the fact that we turned, was it Dryden Hunt that we traded for Malgin? I mean, we turned a waiver claim into Malgin, he's given us a couple goals and several points.
I think he's at 9 or 10 goals now on the season.
Even if we got nothing else from him, Dryden Hunt, he's like in Edmonton now or something. I mean, the guy has gone, I think, through like 3 teams. I think he's been on 4 teams this year because we picked him up from where? Was it the Rain?
We got him from New York. He lasted about 6.5 hours. We traded him to Toronto. I think he got 1 goal with the Avs, which we were just, you know, awesome. He did give quite a bit of effort, but at the same time, it just wasn't fitting. That, you know, at the end of the day, it just wasn't a good fit. So we trade him to Toronto in exchange for Dennis Mulligan. Mulligan all of a sudden becomes Val Nichushkin 2.0.
Right, because that's what Trump was like, don't get too excited.
Or the next DeBrincat, you know, because he's almost like par for the course for what DeBrincat's been doing, or how he started, I should say. And then, Dryden Hunt, they ended up giving him, or I think Toronto dropped him and Calgary picked him up. Or
was it
like
Calgary?
that.
Yeah, somewhere. He's not with Toronto, and what's funny is they thought that
I believe it's Calgary
for a while. Which he can fit in right with the lack of consistency in Calgary's game. So that's how they do.
Well, we'll have to see. Oh, and one more thing to kind of answer your question. So there's 4 guys that are taking that trip with the Avalanche. There's Manson, Lehkonen, Francouz, and Landeskog is also on the trip. Now, methinks it's for more support reasons than anything, but at the same time, it can't help. I can't help but just raise an eyebrow. You know, like
fun to think. Yeah.
So you never know. But so here's the question I pose to you. Now that we kind of have talked about the games that have passed, first place is still very much up for grabs, right? Minnesota plays tonight against Vegas, who they got beat the what out of last time they played them, i.e. like 3 days ago.
Yeah. Sure said
assuming Vegas can pull out the win against Minnesota tonight, that would mean that Minnesota has 2 games over Colorado, but are only beating them by 1 point. So first place is up for grabs, is basically what I'm trying to tell you. However, I want to be a little bit of a Debbie Downer for just a second, because I want to know your thoughts on this. Would we be happy with finishing 3rd place in the Central Division? Why or why not?
Yeah, I just don't think that I don't think it matters that much right now. There's no matchup that absolutely horrifies me. And at this point, I would rather finish in third and give our relentlessly injured guys a little bit of break, our guys who have been playing way too many minutes every game, and not just destroy ourselves to try to get higher. And you know what I mean? I don't think that finishing second or first is going to be worth the toll it might take. If playing guys that are a little bit injured or bringing guys back a little bit early, I don't think it's worth it. With the way that the West is, with the top being so high and the bottom being so low, it's really just like those top 5 spots that are even comparable. It doesn't worry me too much. There's nobody that terrifies me. Everybody's got such big issues, and if the Avs are healthy, we just don't. We don't have one of those glaring with the Wild, and their goaltending is decent right now, but they are missing Kaprizov, and you've got Edmonton, their goaltending is suspect. The Knights, their goaltending is also going to be suspect. They've got their own injury issues. I think that the Knights are teetering on like being one injury away from just tanking. You know what I mean? There's no stability in their lineup to me that I see, and I just don't think that I don't think they're real. And it's interesting. I didn't know that Jack Eichel had never played a playoff game, so I was curious that he's gonna.
Oh, is that right?
Playoffs, yeah. And
that's actually surprising.
Honestly, I know Dallas is the only one that worries me a lot, but I think they don't, not that much. I think we can beat anybody in the West. I think wherever we finish in the West is whatever.
Yeah, and I agree with you completely. It's like, yeah, first would ultimately be best for us. Not only does because of schedule leniency the rest of the season, which we'll get into in just a second, but just the fact that you would play a little bit of a better matchup, maybe in what looks to be Seattle, which, by the way, I am super thrilled Seattle is in the playoffs. Like it warms my heart to see that.
Yeah, I mean, if they it's still just good for them.
Yep, and that's the thing. It's like anyone who we're pinned up against, I'm really okay with, because you look at Dallas, for example. We won the season series 3-1. Right? And C, in my opinion. And then for Minnesota, let's see, we lost that one. We won that one, so 1-1. And I think we won the other ones as well. So I think we also won that one 3-1, the season series. So it's in my mind, I think we know we are the best in the Central Division, even though we might not play like it at sometimes. So I think you're fine to get third. My only reason I wouldn't want to get that third place is because assume you play, it's going to be either Dallas or Minnesota. I'd want to get the home ice advantage first. That's the only reason why I'd want to play a little bit harder to at least bare minimum get second. Now, that being said, would it be the end of the world if it ends up where they get the home ice advantage first? No. It takes me back to when we were the wild card and beat Calgary in 5, who was the first in the Pacific. So again, it all just depends on how the team, just what switch they decide to flip when the playoff comes, and how the rest of this schedule goes. But I think however you're paired up, if you have the home ice advantage first or not, whatever it is, I think it's more of the mental game versus where you actually are physically playing. That's going to be the real
I mean, it's just a matter of us actually showing up, all of us, every game. And that's, if we do show up to every game and play the whole entire game, I have no doubt that we could win the cup again, especially if we have Landeskog back. And that's what I keep saying to Dallas, Allie, is like, it's basically the Dallas Ottingers. Like, if he has a bad game, I don't see them winning. I just don't. They rely so hard on him. And I'd like to know what his how many games he's played this year, like how hard they've been leaning on him, because it sure seems like he steals a lot of games for them.
Yeah, he does. Because if you look at it, I think Dallas they're one of the older teams in the league right now.
Running out of this has been like a total comeback year for Ben. I think Seguin is like kind of fallen off, but he was having a good year at the beginning of the year. I mean, it's just
Pavelski has had a good year.
Robertson, and other than that, a lot of them are pretty old.
Yeah.
Or people who have gotten injured. You know, a lot of injuries that's kind of how I feel about Dallas is when do they start falling off like out of sheer exhaustion, because it's a long playoffs.
It really is, and that's the other thing. If you want to look at like pros and cons of fighting for first or second versus being okay with third, is you could I don't want this to come across the wrong way, but you could play to a point where it's like, okay, you've clinched, for sure it's top 3. Kind of just play your guys to be like, hey, just stay in the game, don't get hurt.
Yeah.
I don't want to say don't play 100%. You always want to play 100%,
no,
but play
I mean,
a smarter, healthier game to be ready for the playoffs instead of trying to go hard, beat your body up more. Like, look at what they did last season. They lost like 7 out of their last 8 games because they were kind of more in the maintenance mode.
Yeah, and that's what it would be nice to offer some maintenance days. Get Makar, not have to worry about bringing Lehkonen back if it's possible to keep him out. It sure would be nice to get Gabe in for a couple of games. That I really wish that we could get him in for a couple of games. I'm curious to see how that goes, because I don't really worry about like Manson. He came back flying last time. Like, I don't think he's someone
he came back and fought Jamie Benn. I think that's about as ready as you can get.
Yeah, so that's okay. So Allie's saying, I just pulled this up. Ottinger has played 58 games. Wedgwood has played 18. So like essentially, they really need Ottinger in all the time, because they have only won 7 of those 18 with Ottinger. So that's not, with Wedgwood. His save percentage and stuff isn't bad, but I don't think that he's someone that you can count on through a whole playoff round if you needed to, like not with Francouz, which it's another factor. It sure would be nice to have Francouz back, and I'm curious to see, get him in for a couple games, because he's been out for a long time.
Well, we got a 4-game road trip here, 3 of which are easy, quote unquote, easy wins.
Yeah.
Maybe he's back and plays one of them.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
Because it would be nice to kind of get Georgiev some rest, because he's played a ton of games as well.
Exactly. And that's what sucks about these games being important, is that you want to have Georgie in, but also you don't want to send him exhausted into the playoffs, which I really think that Georgie is going to I think he's going to own the playoffs. I think this is the playoffs are an environment that are going to make him thrive. I think he's a guy that gets off on that pressure, and there's some people that crumble and some people go crazy and take that. I think he's really going to do good. I hope, and I do believe that he will. But yeah, it sure would be nice if you could get like one of those Sharks game, the Duck game, maybe even like the Preds game. Because honestly, a lot of these games are going to matter. We've got Winnipeg, Edmonton, the Kings game. The Kings are not being talked about enough. Certainly not being talked about enough, because they're not going to be an easy out at all. And no. I feel like people are sleeping on them.
I totally agree. And if you look at it, and we'll jump into this schedule here, you have 7 games left. 2 of which are teams that have already clinched in the Pacific, being Los Angeles and Edmonton, which are your 2 and 3 in the Pacific. Everyone else is either fighting to stay alive in the wild card spot or fighting to get in the wild card spot, meaning Winnipeg, Nashville, or they've been eliminated for about a year and a half, i.e. the 2 San Jose games in Anaheim, So the big pressure, I think, is going to be on the Los Angeles and Edmonton game, because that's it's another yardstick type game, but at the same time, it's like, are these guys, you know, obviously they're going to try, but it's like, are they just going to, you know, kind of not play their best because they've already clinched, or are they also trying to go after first place? Because you look at, you know, Vegas, who's number one, they're only ahead by 1 point over Los Angeles, 2 points over Edmonton.
There's not a single, the thing is like in the East, you've had teams knowing who is going to play each other since November, and there's not a single secured spot in the West. It is insanity. I mean, it is, there is nothing set in stone. It's, I mean,
it's nuts. Yeah, the whole Atlantic Conference, Boston has clinched the conference, the whole Eastern Conference, and have been for like 2 weeks now.
Yep.
We know Toronto and Tampa will play each other again from a rematch from last year. And then for Carolina, Jersey, and New York Rangers, that's still a mixed bag of nuts. Yeah. Because even though there's a point spread of about 6, that, you know, Carolina hasn't clinched the division.
Yeah.
You know,
well, but we've got that point in, we've got our game in hand. We're going to be the last NHL regular season game played. So it is nice that the Preds, you know, they're not super relevant, because that game could end up being like a very important game.
It could. Yeah, depending on how Nashville goes, like if they realize they're losing it in the next however many games, you might as well chalk that one up as well to one that I mean, obviously all of these, truth be told, I am not worried about a single one of these as far as getting our butts kicked at all, losing period. Because with Los Angeles, yes, I believe we've lost those games we've played, but they've made for great hockey. I mean, first of all, you got to admit, Edmonton, we haven't lost to this season.
Yeah, there's something about them. We just beat them.
It's like, you know, those cartoons where it's like the bigger guy has a hand up against the forehead of the small guy, and the small guy's just trying to swing his arms and it keeps missing. That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah, and I'm curious, who do the Oilers take as their starting goaltender into the playoffs? Is it Skinner?
I would assume so.
He's been playing regular minutes at this point, so yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it's been Skinner for the last while. Campbell looks like he's been taking kind of a back seat, but again, you never know what Edmonton will do, you know. So let's jump into that then. As far as the schedule for the rest of the year, I know, and we usually do these week to week or whatnot, but I'm not going to be here next week, so I wanted to really talk about the rest of the season. So San Jose, we play them twice, tomorrow and Thursday. These are games where I really expect, even though it's against my little brother team, I'm really expecting the Avs to do exactly what they did the first time. Drop 7 on them the first 2 minutes of the game, and then the rest is history.
Yeah, we need get out there, get Mikko his 50, get Meek and Mako their hundreds, and Meek and Mako, Mac and Mikko.
I like that better, Meek and Mako.
Yeah, we need to fine tune things, and we need to go out and just get some good feels, and we need to win those by a lot. We need to not be in a dogfight in these like worthless, against these teams. If we go in dogfighting every bad team, it's just like so much energy wasted. It would be nice to just get ahead and cruise to the end of these games.
It reminds me a lot of like the Arizona games. It's like we had to claw tooth and nail to get a couple of wins. And it's it's Arizona, who obviously they're no like pushover team anymore. Yeah. But they're not bottom of the food chain, but they still give us a very hard time. And San Jose, even though they've been eliminated, they're in the Bedard race, call it what you will. They still have things that they are also playing for, So it really should just be as simple as go in there, first 10 minutes, first period of the game, have it blown out of proportion, chase the goalie if you have to, whatever it is. But they should just be quick little 1-2 punches for those 2 games, and then you're off to Los Angeles to face a Kings team.
Yeah.
Yep. The Los Angeles game, that one is on Saturday. And so this is it's a back-to-back, second to last of our back-to-backs.
Mm-hmm.
But the Los Angeles game is going to be one that I'm really looking forward to because of just kind of what we said, a measuring stick opportunity. Yeah. Because all the Pacific has clinched as far as their top 3 spots. None, kind of like what you said, none of the Central is locked in.
Yeah.
0. And that it had the chance to yesterday or a couple days ago, but all the teams that were supposed to win lost.
Yeah, it's been weird. And that just keeps happening too. Like one night, everybody that you want to win will lose, and everybody that you want to lose will win. It's been a really weird. None of the top spots there's no guarantees. Anybody could take it at this point, and it's nice because we are still in control of our destiny at this point. We don't have to rely on anyone yet, so we need to just keep winning because I hate relying on other teams to get places.
Yep, exactly. And again, I think we're at a point where our playoff position is not, we'll clinch the playoffs. It's not going to be a question of if we're going to miss out. But if we could go into this Los Angeles game and win in regulation, that would be amazing. Yeah. Because it would not only be a big confidence boost for us, because they're 4 points above you in their, in the overall standing, but it's something that obviously gives us closure because the first games that we had and lost. Yeah. And it means that we could go into, I don't want to call it a hostile environment, but a very rowdy crowd. That Los Angeles crowd, they get into it, and it's really fun to watch. Yeah. We could go into an environment like that and win, not let it get to our heads, kind of like what we were saying.
It'd be nice to just start setting a tone. Everybody's just kind of been like, well, if the Avs get healthy, then I'm not going to bet against them. But it would be nice, especially if we could get some of these guys back in playing. It'd be nice to ice a full team and have people say, this is exactly what we didn't want, and they're doing exactly what we thought they would do instead of kind of fumbling a little bit. It'd be really nice to get Lehkonen and Manson back and just come out and kick some ass, and people, because everybody has been praying to God that we would stay injured as long as humanly possible. And that's most of them have had a pretty lucky year because we have hardly iced a healthy team at any point. So
Yep, I agree. So then after the Los Angeles game is the Ducks game. Again, my expectation is no different than it was last week. You should go in, take care of business, and get out. They're a team that, again, they're one of the 2 teams that are in the race for Bedard. And I think they closed down at that point in the season. I think they closed down Gibson, just because it's like there's not too much to really go after. So if Anaheim really wants Bedard, they need to just rest everyone else, scratch them, whatever it is, let the new guys play, get some experience under their feet.
So freaking tired. That guy, oh my God, he has faced so many shots this season. It's unreal. Yeah. And he's really has not played bad.
No. And that's the thing. It's like, I really am looking forward to a Ducks team in the next, 2-3 seasons after they've gone through this rebuild, so to speak, because unlike a few teams that I could list off, Arizona being one of them, they are quicker to rebuild. They actually take it as a rebuild instead of a retooling year here, another retooling year here.
Yeah.
It's here's some new players, here's some switch arounds, we made some bigger signs, and we're going. It helps that you are a bigger market in Anaheim or whatnot, but I think it just wasn't Anaheim's year this year. They get some big signings this next season, and then they're off to the races.
Yeah.
So that's kind of I would do if I were the Anaheim GM, is just kind of shut down Gibson and say, hey, it wasn't you that was the problem. It was the rest of us.
No. Yeah.
And then you're off to the Edmonton game. Well, after Denver for the Edmonton game. But with the Oilers game, again, this one is going to be fun because it's right down at the end of the season, and it's going to have another playoff feel, I think.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I think it's actually going to be a goalie's paradise, because you look at both teams and they have some of the most potent offenses in the entire league. This would be a big confidence boost if, for example, I would assume Georgiev would play this game. Imagine if he got a shutout against an Oilers team that has McDavid, Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins. The list goes on.
Can definitely send a guy into the playoffs feeling real hot.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I think that's just so big with Georgie. I just think he's that mindset that, like, once he gets rolling, I think that he could really, really do some damage if he's feeling good.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because we've talked about Georgiev, I don't know how many times this season, because it's like, he grabbed our confidence and trust in him. And then some people began to doubt him, and others don't think he's fit for the job. Here's one thing I will say about Georgiev. You look at his stats, you look at the team's win percentage and points percentage and whatever, we are top 3 throughout the board with Georgiev, right?
Yeah, he's almost a 92% save average. He's had 35 wins and 16 losses. I mean, people just like refuse to acknowledge that he is one of the top 10 goaltenders and has been. I think right now he's like 6 or 7, but he has been like just about top 5 almost the whole entire season, even through all of our bitching and moaning. Like, I don't know. People got to buy into it at some point.
Well, because there's times where even I'm like, yeah, he didn't really have a good game, and he has had more of those.
I'd be curious if you took his 2 worst games out. I think that he'd probably be top 3 goaltenders, because he's just had some real bad games.
Oh yeah, because I don't remember where I saw this.
When it comes to save percentage, he's 5th in the league, and I mean that's your most basic. And Swayman is above him, but Swayman has played far less games. He's played 33 games. Georgiev has played the most of the top 5 goalies, other than Sorokin, who's played 58 games. Georgie's played 56. And Sorokin is, he's phenomenal. I honestly think that people don't talk about him enough, but that's what happens when you play for the Islanders.
That's true. Because if you look at the save percentage on Georgiev, he's got 0.1 better than Hellebuck, Vasilevsky,
Saros,
Ottinger, Saros, Korpisalos. I mean,
all the goalies
that they not that far off.
Talk about as being the best over and over and over again, and he is tied with Swayman. Which, can people even talk enough about Swayman and Ullmark this year? No.
Nope.
But people are still talking about Vasilevsky, Saros, and Ottinger as just the world class. Look at just Sturkin down there, number 14. Allie, what is going on there? And nobody talks. I don't know if it's just because he's not obnoxious, he's not getting penalties, but no one in the league talks about Georgie. It blows my freaking mind that he's never in these conversations, because he has consistently been in the top 7 to 8 the entire year as essentially a starting goaltender, playing starting goaltender minutes with a team that's gone through some pretty big struggles. He's had to carry this team many games. And I just don't understand why he's not in that conversation. It blows my mind that goalies way below him in the standings are talked about relentlessly, and he's just not there.
And what I think is interesting, if you look at the number of shutouts he has, he's tied for first with Sorokin and, ironically, Darcy Kemper.
Yeah.
Right? But Darcy Kemper, as far as his save percentage, it's nowhere near what, A, it was last year, but B, to what Georgiev is right now.
And there's your consistency for you.
And that's the thing right now. It's one thing we need to realize with this team is that it's not last year's team.
No.
Last year's team could blow the doors off of anyone from this year's team, and maybe with the exception of Boston.
Last year's team doesn't happen. That's not what it takes to win the Stanley Cup. We just got really lucky. You should not win the Stanley Cup only losing like 5 games throughout the whole playoff.
Because they looked. I can't remember where I found the statistic, but they said in the last like 15, 16 Stanley Cup winning teams, they went to their goalie's performance, and Darcy Kemper was dead last.
Oh, it doesn't surprise me.
That's how good of the team he had in front of him.
We won in spite of our goalie.
It kind of felt like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, we're not trying to crap on Darcy Kemper or anything like that. Great guy, you know, stuff like that. He did exactly what he needed to for us last season. But I think with Georgiev, he's been just as good as what Darcy Kemper has done. Yes, he's made.
Well, see, and here's with Allie's question. And that's what I think last year they saw. We basically put a, you know, suspect. I think that Kemper is a very good goalie, but he's very streaky. And the way he plays, so flailing, and he has bad glove control, really struggles with rebound control, struggled with tracking before somebody poked his eyeball out. And so I think that people saw us win with a performance like that. And they think that it's the same this year, that Georgie's just getting to ride, you know, our awesomeness, when it's the complete opposite. I mean, we have relied on goaltending so much. When you consider, I mean, it's so easy to forget all our defense being such amateur AHL players at the beginning of the year. Like, when you considered, you could look at our roster and somebody who is a pretty big Avs fan wouldn't recognize most of it. It's just not the same. And I'm sure that a lot of people that don't follow the Avs closely would not realize that Georgie has had to work very hard, you know, for us to get to where we are.
Yeah. And again, I'm not trying to excuse that Georgiev has had these knuckleheaded moments. He does, right?
Yeah.
But so does 31 other goalies playing at any given time. You know?
Saw Markstrom go out and skate out halfway to the blue line while somebody, you know what I mean? Like, the world's best goalies, when you get burned as a goalie, you get burned, and it looks dumb.
Exactly.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah. So again, the stats speak for themselves. Georgiev is a top tier goaltender. Is he to the elite status yet? No,
Someday.
he does. He's maybe next year or 2 years or whatever. But I think you definitely have solid goaltending,
especially
for his contract.
It's very reassuring, because now when you look at these goalie stats and you look at save percentage, that like kind of it makes it so that those like one-off, like super good shutouts and super bad losses, they're not weighing anything down. This is such a good, huge sample size right now in the season to see him sitting at number 5 with a whole season worth of data. Seeing him at 5 at the end of the season that's super valuable, because it's a very true, you know, look at what he is, as opposed to at the beginning of the season when you had, like, you know, one backup goalie who played 2 good games and he sat at number 1 for 2 weeks because he had, you know, one shutout with 10 saves and then one game where he made 50 saves. It's just a very true look in the season at where he stands, and he stands in the top 5, and that's pretty
exactly. And a lot of that is because he's had to have that essentially opportunity thrown upon him because of injuries, and the fact that our backup goaltending, when it's not Pavel Francouz, it's you know, Johansson's begun to kind of make a name for himself. Annunen had a good game out of the 2 he played.
I have faith in Johansson for sure, and that's what Ali asked earlier. Johansson came in a couple times during the bubble Dallas run, didn't he?
I believe
that was when we went through Hutchinson and Johansson.
That was Hutchinson, and
Francouz. Didn't we go? All of them played a little bit, didn't they?
Well, I think, I mean, we played everyone but our starter. That's all I know.
Yeah, I think Frankie was out the entire year, wasn't he? So I think
Francouz was injured. So yeah, we had like a second and third, like, bench type thing. It was very interesting, but you know, and kind of like what we were just saying, it's to the extent of I think, you know, Georgiev has had enough experience in my mind where a playoff game should not be any different than a large number of games that he's faced.
No, I think he's very mentally, like, sound in that. I don't think it's going to
exactly. And if they win their first series, especially if they sweep their first series, fingers crossed, then the rest, it's the team effort if they end up getting kicked out, because I refuse to put everything on Georgiev's shoulders, right?
For sure.
So anyways, that was a little tangent with the goaltending, but
thinks he's streaky, he says. I'm willing to drop the gloves on that one. I gotta find some deep stats, get in the analytics community who can do it.
There you go. Well, and the thing is, only time will tell. You know, if he wins a series, I think it's totally fine. You know, because the only difference is who you play, and a lot of these games go up to like puck luck most of the time. There's a lot of times where Georgiev, it's like he couldn't have done anything because either it was tipped in the slot or just kind of made a weird bounce or whatever. Those things happen. You can't blame the goalie on those for those types of things.
Well, and also, what's the value in him being healthy almost the whole entire year and not having to stress and fret over? Could you imagine having to deal with relentless goaltender injuries throughout this too? Like, it's been really nice. I mean, he had like a quick stretch right before Christmas, didn't he? That was he even injured, or did he get sick?
I don't remember him being injured for some reason. I can't remember if he was or not, but you know,
I mean, it's been so nice just having a goalie that doesn't look like he's hurting, isn't questionable. I mean, he just there always, you know.
Yep. So, and I mean, if you look at him compared to Darcy Kemper this year, again, two new teams, an Avalanche team from last season, an Avalanche team from this season, and a Capitals team from last and this season.
Mm-hmm.
But the Capitals are on the brink of being eliminated.
I know.
You know, and
I hate it.
He's lost more games. Talking about Kemper, if you want to go with wins and losses, he has lost more games than he has won. So not only does that attest to how much we made him look good last season, but it also means that if Georgiev's hitting these types of things with a not as good team from last season,
yes,
you know, so it will be. And I agree with Bill. We don't know how he's going to react in a more tense scenario, but I have still more confidence than anyone that he will be just fine. You know, and if they do end up getting kicked out round one, whatever it is, I don't think it's going to be because he played terribly.
No, in the games that he has really where he's had his bad games has always correlated directly with when our defense has been playing very poor. The worst game that he had this season was that game that Makar, I mean, it was the worst I've ever seen Makar play. But yes, even better, the more important things is McKinnon. I genuinely believe that McKinnon and Rantanen, get them both to 100. Rantanen's going to get his 50 goals. And I've already decided that if he stops at 49 and doesn't get it, I'm going to personally write a letter.
I'm driving to Denver
for the rest of my life, every single day, handwritten. So he's got to get it, or I'm going to make some ref's life miserable that blocked an empty net goal. Because
I know, it's like, if that's what stops him, I'm going to be so mad. He's so mad.
Could you imagine? You would think that there would be something in play that they would make that count as a goal. Like the one where,
I mean, and remember, they still have 7 games left, but still, it's like, if
he doesn't get it, we'll have bigger
score. I don't know. I don't know. So anyways, how many points do they have actually right now? Rantanen and McKinnon. 97 for McKinnon, 92 for Rantanen.
Well, and it helps.
Nathan's on
the 4-point night the other night. Like, good God, you maniac!
Yeah, I know, no kidding. So anyway, last 2 games, and then we'll kind of begin to wind down here. But the Winnipeg Jets and Nashville Predators, both of these, one of them is just inside the playoff cut, the other one's just outside. They're both fighting for the same thing, is getting a spot in there.
Right.
These are 2 where, even though they are kind of more, you should win type games, they are going to be fighting and clawing tooth and nail to get a win, especially when these are divisional games and they mean quite a bit more to them than it would to you, all things considered, right? Yeah. So one of them is at home, the other one is in
Yep. We had
Key.
not even overtime wins. Like we need to not be giving.
We need them to be
any
in
points.
position. Yep. So that's the rest of the season. That's it. It's 7 games. Of those, 2 are going to be more challenging, I think. But again, they're all winnable games. If you win out the season, I bet you Minnesota or Dallas will drop a couple.
Yeah.
And that might be just the break you need to.
Yeah, is it Minnesota playing the Knights tonight?
Yeah, in fact, the Golden Knights are winning 1-0 at the end of 1.
Nice.
Which is like awesome. Okay, so here's the question.
Yeah, Stars are beating the Flames.
Yep. So this one is from Bill. He just says, if McKinnon gets 100 points and Moose, aka Mikko, gets 50 goals, but we are a wild card team, are we still an underdog? I don't think. I mean, to truthfully answer this question, I don't think we get a wild card spot. I think it's 3rd place in the division at worst. And at that point, considering just how close every team will actually end up being by the end of that game, I don't think there's a question of underdogs. It's a question of willpower more than anything.
I obviously believe that the Avs are better than all of these teams. We just haven't been able to play our game. So it's been putting us on par with a lot of these teams. But yeah, I mean, other than us and maybe the Stars, I mean, honestly, anyone could win any of the matchups. I don't think that anyone there's no really easy out at all. It's crazy. I was trying to think of who would be the easiest out. And like when I come down to like possibly the Oilers being the easiest out because they just seem to not be good at playoffs. That's wild to think though that they would be the easiest. I don't know. It's going to be a very interesting playoffs.
Yeah. And again, that's the beauty of hockey is anyone can win the Stanley Cup. There's always a good chance for the teams. Obviously, if we're talking playoffs and beyond, there's a chance anyone could win that cup. Wild card, third in their division, whatever it is, right? It does not always guarantee that the best team who wins the President's Trophy, for example, wins the cup. So at this point, every team will flip a switch and get into playoff mode. That's a given, right? But it becomes, in my mind, a question of willpower. Who wanted it more?
Yeah.
And I'm of the opinion that the Avalanche want to go back to back more than people want to even win their first or whatever. But at the same time, sorry, go ahead.
No, I agree. Like that Tampa mentality, like the regular season is for the birds. Like it's just, you know what I mean? I feel like once we get there, it's going to be like, oh, okay, this is what we're built for now. You know what I mean? I think that the Avs are now one of those like built for playoff teams. You know how there's like built for the regular season teams that continually do it. I think the Avs are kind of where that Tampa is. Just get through the regular season and then it's go time. I hope they are anyways.
That's just it, is we can only hope. And there's a lot of things, speaking of the future, that we don't know. There could be an injury that kind of just derails the entire playoff. There could be, the team we're facing just has an outrageously good series and beats us or whatever. You don't know at the end of the day. You can only hope, and we could only analyze what we've seen. But again, with where we're sitting, with the events of what's going on, I really think it ultimately comes down to a 50-50 chance of winning your series. And that's about it. Who wants their 50% more? That's up to them. We can only hope that it's the Avs, but again, we'll just have to wait and see what the rest of the regular season does and where we end up in the standings, and then we can dissect our opponent from there. But again, I'm totally confident in this team of making that big push in the playoffs when it comes to.
No, we did not have any 100 points. Oh, did I click the thing? No 100 points. Mikko was just shy of 100 points last year. I don't think, other than that, no, not even close, really. Mac was at 88, Kadri at 87. So It's crazy, but that just shows how spread out the wealth was amongst our team. So,
yeah. So, I think that about wraps it up. I don't have anything else to add for this week, Britt. I don't know if you do. But yeah. So next week, I'm not going to be here. My wife and I are taking a little vacation off to New York City.
yes, we have the best time.
Yeah, we're gonna have fun. So we'll keep you guys alerted for. I know Britt was in some discussion with somebody, or maybe whatever ends up happening, we'll be sure to let you guys know for next week.
Yeah, if anything, I might just for a little bit myself. Otherwise, I'm going to see if I can talk to some people. But if anything, I'll probably just get on for myself a little bit for a quick update on stuff. We'll see how crazy it gets.
There you go. There you go. Okay. Well, thanks a lot, everyone, for watching us, following us here at the Cluster Puck Podcast, part of the MHRT Network. I forgot to do the plugs at the beginning of this episode, but if you like this show and want to see shows just like it on the network, you can follow the MHRT Network on YouTube, on Facebook, wherever you get your podcasts, so you can watch shows just like the Cluster Puck Podcast, where they talk about a variety of things within the Mile High city. You can follow us specifically at Cluster Puck Avs on Twitter and Instagram, and the Cluster Puck Podcast on Facebook. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can get notified when our show goes live. Usually it's on Mondays at 6 o'clock Mountain Time. So again, we're looking forward to a really great rest of the season. I think we just go focus on game to game, win those. And again, if we win out, there's nothing to say that first place in the Central Division is all but ours.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think do it.
I think so too. I totally believe it. So, okay. Well, I smell the steaks on the grill, so I'm going to go eat.
All right. Have a good weekend.
Have a great week, everybody. And as always, go Avs go.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Because this party is over.